Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Thursday, everybody. I hope your day and your week are going very well so far. We've got a new day, which of course means a new NBA player prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day comes a new opportunity to go ahead and make some money. A little bit of a weird Thursday here. We only have one NBA game in tonight's slate. And if I'm being totally honest, not a very good game at that, especially when it comes to player props. We have the Dallas Mavericks facing off with the Utah Jazz in tonight's action. Obviously, only being one game, there wasn't a ton of props to go ahead and choose from. So what I did was we're going to play a little simple. It'll be a little bit of a shorter video today. We have a same game parlay for this Mavs Jazz game. It's plus 130 odds, nothing too crazy. Obviously, tomorrow we have our big game hunting. We have our Freaky Friday 5-leg parlay in tomorrow's video to look forward to. But we'll stick to a parlay again in today's video. We're going simple 4-leg parlay plus 130 odds. Now, I know that might not sound like a ton of value to you guys, but really high alternate lines, pretty good. The data across the board is going to be absolutely fantastic in today's video. And although I typically don't do parlays like that, where it's like 4 legs, for plus 130 or plus, I like to do, usually if I'm doing parlays, do a little higher odd parlays. In a situation like this, we only have one game and there wasn't a lot of great single bet props to begin with. This is the way that you're going to go and bet if you're going to go ahead and take action on tonight's slate. You'll see what I mean when I get to the data and show you guys. The data, it's the greenest data you're ever going to see probably on this channel. I don't do parlays like this too often, only in situations like this where there's only like one game and not a lot to pick from. I'll do parlays like this, these smaller parlays. But before we dive into today's parlay, a quick little recap of how we did last night. And overall, guys, not a bad night, not a good night. We went 2-2 last night. The Holiday and Miles Turner props, those hit pretty comfortably. Trey Murphy over 4.5 rebounds was a major disappointment on my part. And the Domantas Sabonis over 26.5 points plus assists. It felt like for a minute we were going to get the cash there. Unfortunately, it didn't work out in our favor there. So we go 2-2. We did have a slight loss on the unit side of things, but overall, an even night. We're going to go ahead and do better tonight, I think. 4-leg parlay plus 130 odds. Pretty good value, and like I said, guys, the data is absolutely fantastic. Let's go ahead and jump into today's picks. All right, people, jumping right into the outliers screen here. That we have this Mavs Jazz game, the only game on tonight's slate, 9 p.m. tip-off. Our first leg of our 4-leg parlay, which, by the way, guys, is going to be on FanDuel. You can only find these odds and these props on FanDuel. So this is a FanDuel parlay, same game parlay. Our first leg of our 4-leg parlay, Luka Donćić over 1.5 3-pointers made. Now, if you guys watch my videos, typically my rule is I don't go over minus 250 on player props. I just don't think the value is there majority of the time. But again, in a scenario where we only have one game and not a lot of props to choose from, this is the only spot where I ever recommend taking over like minus 250 on a player prop. This one's a whopping minus 550 on FanDuel, so I wouldn't recommend necessarily betting this straight up. But it is minus 550 for great reason. Luka's cashed this over in 9 out of 11 games so far this year. It's an 82% hit rate so far this year. He's averaging 3.18 3-pointers made per game. Only 2 times this year has he failed to cash the over, which was actually versus Utah. I don't know, it's a bad omen. And then versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. Those are the only 2 games so far this year where he failed to cash the over of 1.5 3-pointers made. 2 threes. It's all Luka has to do to go ahead and cash this line. Look at the last 20 games dating back to last year. 80% hit rate. He had an 86% hit rate overall last year, including playoffs, 79, out of 92 games last year. He cashed the over, averaging 3.83 3-pointers made per game. That includes playoffs as well. You see a lot of green there. And the head-to-head data, he actually cashed that in 4 straight games going into their game on October 28th. The one time they played this year, again, he only had 1 3-pointer made in that win for Dallas, but he has cashed in 4 of his last 5 against the Utah Jazz, averaging 3.2 3-pointers made per game. And it makes sense. Utah so far this year are 26th overall in 3-pointers allowed. There's teams are shooting and scoring 14.8 3-pointers per game on the Utah Jazz, one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA this year in terms of 3-pointers. And versus shooting guards, which is, I guess, where you'd kind of classify Luka Donćić. It's so hard when it comes to matchups because Luka is not really a shooting guard, but he's also kind of is. It's weird. But they are 28th in 3-pointers allowed to the shooting guard position. 6 3-pointers made per game. So overall, pretty solid matchup. I know the last time they played just a few weeks ago, he didn't cash the over, but it's a really solid spot overall for Luka. And sticking with Luka here, the second leg of our 4-leg parlay, guys, we're going with Luka over 5.5 rebounds again. It's minus 700. Crazy, crazy juice on this player prop. But over 5.5 rebounds for Luka. The data on this one even better than the last one. He's cashed the over in 10 out of 11 games so far this year. for the Dallas Mavericks. It's a 91% hit rate, averaging 8.09 rebounds per game. Now, be totally transparent. If you want the odds to go higher, you can obviously take a little alternate line. You can go even higher up. We have it at 5.5 rebounds. You can go ahead and take it. It's available at 6.5 on, actually not on FanDuel, 6.5 on Prize Picks. On FanDuel, you can go to 7.5 rebounds, which is minus 185, and the data is still pretty solid, 64% hit rate. Not as good, but again, we're playing on the safer side here. But a 91% hit rate so far this year. He's only one time, which is versus Houston. He missed it by 1 rebound. He failed to cash the over. The head-to-head data also very solid. Each of the last 5 meetings with the Utah Jazz, including the one time they played this year on October 28th, he's cashed the over, averaging 9.2 rebounds per game against the Jazz in their last 5 matchups. Even last year, including playoffs, 86 out of 92 games he cashed the over. Only 6 times in 92 games, including playoffs, he failed to cash the over last year at 93% hit rate, averaging 9.29 rebounds per game. And overall, Utah this year, 19th overall in rebounds allowed, 45 rebounds per game. Still bottom half of the league, but not the worst mark. But versus shooting guards, they are the second worst team, giving up 9.4 rebounds per game to opposing shooting guards. So really good spot here for Luka. Again, for minus 700, it better damn be. All right, guys, our third leg of our 4-leg parlay. This is the least juiced line, which is crazy. Least juiced odd bet of this parlay. We have Daniel Gafford over 5.5 rebounds. It's minus 240 on FanDuel, and the numbers are pretty good. Now, obviously not as good as the other ones, but really solid in this one as well. A 73% hit rate so far this year for Daniel Gafford. He's cashed the over in 8 out of 11 games this year for the Dallas Mavericks, averaging 6.09 rebounds per game so far this year. Even going back to last year, a 61% hit rate on the over, including playoffs. 59 out of 96 games he cashed the over, averaging 7.13 rebounds per game. So really solid data last year, solid data through the first 11 games this year for Daniel Gafford. And the head-to-head data also fantastic as well. Each of the last 4 meetings against the Utah Jazz, again, including that one game they played this year on October 28th, he has cashed the over. He's averaging 8.5 rebounds per game against the Utah Jazz over their last 4 meetings. Another key thing to note here, guys, for Gafford is that his minutes have been increasing. Look at the first few games. You're hovering below 20, around 20. The last 4 games, he's played at least 23 minutes in each of the last 4 games. So you're seeing a lot more playing time for Gafford lately, and when that happens, the data increases significantly. Just looking back to last year, this is a filter to show when Daniel Gafford plays between 24 and 28 minutes, so about where he's been playing. We'll move it back to 23 just so we can be accurate here. Between 23 and 28 minutes played per game last season, an 81% hit rate on this over. 26 out of 32 games in that data range of between 23 and 28 minutes. He cashed the over, averaging 7.78 rebounds per game. So far this year, in all 3 games that he's fit this data point, which is each of the last 3, he has cashed the over, averaging 6.67 rebounds per game. So really solid spot here for Gafford. And again, Utah overall 19th in rebounds allowed versus power forwards. They are 20th, 11.3 rebounds per game. Versus centers, they're 17th. So they're bottom half in pretty much all the categories we need them to be for this prop. And guys, our fourth and final leg of today's parlay, we have Klay Thompson over 9.5 points. Again, highly juiced, minus 550 on this one, but for good reason. Again, he's cashed the over in 9 out of 11 games so far this year for the Dallas Mavericks, an 82% hit rate, averaging 14.55 points per game this season. Obviously, coming off that really big game against the Warriors, we had 22 points in that one. But overall, really solid numbers overall last year, even with the Warriors, an 85% hit rate, 66 out of 78 games he cashed the over, averaging 17.63 points per game. And the head-to-head data, each of the last 5 times he's faced off with the Utah Jazz, including this year, he's cashed the over, averaging 27.2 points per game against the Utah Jazz. So really good numbers there for Klay Thompson. Like we saw earlier, versus shooting guards, this team has struggled. They are 29th in points allowed, giving up a whopping 37.6 points per game against opposing shooting guards. That kind of falls in the Luka category and the Klay Thompson category. But overall, really good numbers. 8 of his last 10 games, he's cashed it. Even in the last 20 games, dating back to last year with the Warriors, an 85% hit rate. So really solid. Again, it should be. There's no surprise when you're betting a minus 550 player prop that the data is going to be fantastic, but that is really great on this one. So those are all 4 picks in today's video. So that's our 4-leg parlay plus 130 odds, and the odds obviously will fluctuate throughout the day. Maybe it goes lower, maybe it goes higher. We have Luka over 1.5 3-pointers made, Luka over 5.5 rebounds, Daniel Gafford over 5.5 rebounds, and Klay Thompson over 9.5 points. That's our 4-leg parlay for today's video. So, guys, that's going to do it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, guys, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. If you guys made it this far into the video, you made it all the way through, please comment 9 down below in the comments if you watched through the entire video. We really do appreciate those who watch through the entire thing. We put a lot of work into these videos, and so those who stick around and actually watch through the entire things and don't just dive right to the comment section for the picks, I really do appreciate that. We go back tomorrow with our Freaky Friday 5-leg parlay. We've had one hit so far this year and a couple really, really nut punch close misses. Last week we had 4 out of 5 legs. Well, the only leg we missed was Josh Giddey over 9.5 points, and he finished exactly with 9 points and missed a free throw late in the game that would have gave us that parlay. So we've been on the money for the most part. Let's see if we can go ahead and get one tomorrow. Until then, guys, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy tonight. Enjoy Thursday. We'll see you back here tomorrow.